shine the light. Understanding this, it can come tonight. For the love of love and the answers too. It begins with me, it begins with you. Oh, wishing for the time to call, looking for the sign, making it right. Dancing, dancing, oh, waiting for the time
From the Essential Records label, featuring John Anderson, Steve Howe, Chris Squire, Rick Wakeman, and Alan White, along with Billy Sherwood, and of course artwork by Roger Dean. That was Yes, Keys to Ascension 2, hit number 62 in the UK album charts, and the US Billboard 200 hit number 169. But here on the Gagley Archives and our listener base back in 1997 and Z88.9, well, it's been 2 weeks in the top spot of the weekly top 20, and when the GPRN's Top 100 voting was launched, that despite the fact that it did hold the top spot for 2 weeks, and it was my personal favorite of the later Yes albums, it was the number 29 album overall in the GPRN's Top 100 of 1997. You check out our Top 100 lists on our menu bar at gagleyarchives.com/index.asp. We featured the track Mind Drive, and as I said prior to featuring the track, it was originally a song that was rehearsed by the proposed supergroup XYZ, featuring Chris Squire, Alan White, and guitarist Jimmy Page. Of course, they couldn't get Robert Plant interested, so they decided to just scrap the track. But nonetheless, it wound up many years later, some 17 years later, in fact, on Keys to Ascension 2. The studio tracks from this album were released on Key Studio, if you remember. The whole album was reissued in 2010, along with its earlier companion, Keys to Ascension, and the concert video of the same name was part of the Keys to Ascension box set. In recent news on Yes, they've announced UK dates for their long-awaited Album Series 2023 tour, featuring their 1974 Relayer album in its entirety, together with a selection of other classic Yes favorites. And the Relayer tour was originally planned for 2020, but postponed due to the pandemic and last year's highly successful 50th anniversary of their legendary Close to the Edge album. The Royal Albert Hall was the original choice for the tour's London show, but has no availability, so the band will make a nostalgic return to an old haunt, the former Hammersmith Odeon. The coming tour features Steve Howe, Jeff Downes, John Davison, Billy Sherwood, with Jay Shellen on drums, stepping into Alan White's shoes, who sadly passed in May of 2022. So here are the dates upcoming. June 10th, they'll be, and this is all in 2023, they'll be at the Symphony Hall in Birmingham, United Kingdom. Then they go to Southend, UK, and then to York, to Glasgow, then Gateshead, Liverpool, Manchester, and London. And that's all through the month of June, from the 10th to the 20th. The show will comprise of 2 sets by the band. The first will feature classic favorites from Yes and their catalog, and then they'll do Relayer, their 7th studio album, in the second set. Relayer marked a slight change in direction, bringing an edgier feel to this album. And almost 22 minutes in length, the opening track, Gates of Delirium, included a battle scene between keyboard and guitar, and the battle gives way to the beautiful closing ballad Soon, a prayer for peace and hope. Relayer continues with Sound Chaser, a progressive rock jazz fusion experiment demonstrating the power of Alan White and Chris Squire, and To Be Over, the calm and gentle conclusion of the album based on the melody by Steve Howe and John Anderson. Check out the website yesworld.com for more information. On the other side of this, we feature a 75th birthday salute to one of the pioneers of the bass instrument, the great Percy Jones. Stay tuned.
If you like what you heard tonight, don't keep it a secret. Send your comments and suggestions in care of the Gagley Archives by emailing gagleyarchives@gagleyarchives.com or gagleyarchives@comcast.net. Visit our website at gagleyarchives.com, also at facebook.com/gagleyarchives and at YouTube at Gagley Archives. Follow the radio program on social media at Twitter and Instagram at Gagley Archives. You can contact our studios at Gagley Archives in care of Tom Gagliardi, 201 North 13th Street, Brigantine, New Jersey, 08203. Follow the websites for the latest in progressive rock news, concert updates, upcoming guests, in-studio performances and world premieres you will only hear on the Gagley Archives. Tonight's edition of the Gagley Archives comes to you from North 13th Studios in Brigantine, New Jersey.
Welcome to the 5th and final set of program 1816. And be sure to check out our YouTube website, youtube.com/Gagley Archives, and our recent interview with Dave Newhouse, talking about the Muffins' incredible new 13-disc box set titled Baker's Dozen. It's a great interview. You don't want to miss it. And joining us very soon will be Paul Sears to give his angle as well, and also talking about some of the stuff he's been doing. Also, next Saturday night, we'll hear the second part of the top albums of 2012 that hit the number 1 spot in the weekly top 20. We'll also celebrate the 50th anniversary of Banco del Mucho Soccorso's Darwin, also the third album from Focus, and so much more. It's all this coming Saturday night on the Gagley Archives program, 1817, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We kick off the fifth and final set with a birthday salute as the man turned 75 years young, and the great Percy Jones, a Welsh-based guitarist known as a member of the jazz fusion ensemble Brand X from 1974 to 1980, then 92 to 99, and then, of course, going into the 2010s. Percy was born in Wales, and he's also done extensive work as a session musician, one of the most notable musicians from that region. And he's been active with other groups. He played with a New York City trio called Stone Tiger, featuring guitarist Bill Frisell and drummers Mike Clark and Dougie Bowen during different periods. And then in 82 and 83, Jones was also the driving force behind Tunnels, which was an improvisation collective which released 4 albums, including Progressivity, Live from the Knitting Factory, and of course they joined us in the studio several times, along with Mark Wagner, and of course the late great drummer who sadly passed this year, Frank Katz. Residing in New York, he's currently a member of MJ12, an instrumental group based in New York City, and he's also done work in the project known as PAKT, P-A-K-T, on the Moon June Records label. Percy was also a member of jazz fusion group Soft Machine, also the poetry rock group The Liverpool Scene, which had Adrian Henry, and has contributed to recordings for Kate Bush, David Sylvian, Brian Eno, Steve Hackett, Paranoise, Suzanne Vega, Richard Barbieri, and Fovea Hex, amongst others. Jones' playing style incorporates an unconventional 3-finger right-hand technique to pluck the strings, like Les Claypool and before him John Entwistle, in contrast to most bassists using 2 fingers. He also employs sliding harmonics, and over the years he's employed various other extending techniques, such as deliberately pulling the strings over the edges of the fingerboard, creating a distinctive buzzing rattle, and thumb on the fingerboard left-hand technique to achieve a wider interval double stops than are normally possible. His first recordings with Brand X employed a fretless Fender Precision bass, though he later switched to what became his trademark wall bass, produced by Electric Wood Limited in the UK. More recently, of course, Jones switched to custom-built Ibanez basses, citing a desire to simply try something different after many successful years with the wall. The uniqueness of his approach, particularly with Brand X on his contributions Brian Eno's Another Green World and Before and After Science LPs of the 70s, cast a long shadow. Perhaps the most obvious example of this can be clearly seen in the work of Japan bassist Mick Karn, who acknowledged Jones as an influence at various times in his career. Jones studied electronic engineering at the University of Liverpool, and he's a huge ham radio fan, and he's used his electronic skills to potent effect over the years. He designed and built various analog signal processors for use with the bass, perhaps the most unusual of which was an amplitude and frequency sensitive flanger that would vary the character of its flanging effect based on what notes were being played into it and how loudly they were being played. His other designs included an envelope-controlled voltage-controlled filter, VCF, which can be heard on the track Naughty Goes to Sweden on their 1980 Brand X release called Do They Hurt, as well as an analog drum machine which featured preset rhythms and various odd time signatures such as 15/16ths. He's also an avid amateur radio operator, as I mentioned, loves the ham radio, and has developed several innovative compact antenna designs for the amateur radio HF bands. We're going to feature a nice set again as he turns the young age of 75. And on a personal note, I love you, Percy. You've always been supportive of the Gagley Archives. I remember when he would listen to us back in the AOL Instant Messenger days, and he was one of the first people to bring up the name of Allison Steele, and I had no idea who he was talking about, if it was a band. And he said, you need to listen to Allison Steele. She was one of the progressive rock radio pioneers. I had no idea. And then Ken Golden and so many others, and Jack Webster, a co-producer, and once I heard, I knew exactly what Jack, Percy, Ken, and so many others were saying. So he's always loved the Gagley Archives. He's been in our studio several times. We saw him over at Progstock a couple years ago, sitting there in that I guess you could say the rehearsal room, and just talking about the old days, and still doing his thing, and hopefully in good health. We're going to feature in this 75th birthday salute a couple of his solo albums, both Propeller Music and Cape Catastrophe, and we'll also check out the album that was released 25 years ago this time from Brand X called Manifest Destiny, which I thought was an incredible album beginning to end. And then we'll also feature Live at Rossfest that took place a couple years ago, that was put out last year, just prior to the sad passing of his longtime musical soulmate, John Goodsall. But first, this is the title cut to the 1990 release from Percy Jones called Cape Catastrophe. Happy birthday to the great and much loved Percy Jones.
This is Radio Australia in Melbourne, Victoria. And at this time, we're calling listeners in Asia, the Pacific, and Papua New Guinea on frequencies of 9580, 7135, 6080 and 5995 kilohertz in 31, 41 and 49 meter bands. Our frequency 6060 kilohertz in the 49 meter band is now closing, and in a moment we'll have international report read by Jim Martin and then your host, Dr. Hedvig. Time signal for 40 minutes.
This is Percy Johns from Brand X, and you're listening to the Gagley Archives.
This is Frank Katz of Brand X, and you're listening to the Gagley Archives.
This is Percy Jones from Brand X. Sorry, what was it? I had to say the same thing.
Hi, this is Percy Jones from Tunnels, and you're listening to the Gagley Archives.
Recorded live at Rosfest 2018, that was Brand X, Disco Suicide. Again, happy 75th birthday to Percy Jones. Prior to that, we heard his composed piece on the Brand X Manifest Destiny album called Stellarator. Again, released 25 years ago this time, my personal favorite of the year, 1997. Prior to that, we heard from the Propeller Music release, the $10,000 Bookshelf. And you know the whole story about the tapes that were holding up the bookshelf? Well, maybe we'll have Percy on again to tell that great story. And we started out the set for his 75th birthday salute with the title cut to his 1990 release, Cape Catastrophe. Happy birthday to the great Percy Jones. He used to have a website at percyjones.net. I don't think it's up and running anymore, but he's also on Facebook. So much love and happy birthday to you, my friend. We wrap things up on the other side with what is our new number one album, the weekly Top 20. Stay tuned.
Here's an interesting fact. On average, nearly 95% of all the titles we feature every week can be purchased at the popular online superstore, The Laser's Edge, at lasercd.com. The Laser's Edge specializes in all of your favorite genres, including progressive rock, progressive metal, fusion, along with the best stoner, space and psychedelic sound selections from all corners of the earth. Whether it's a brand new release, an obscure reissue, a lost album finally digitally seeing the light of day, or a limited edition box set, you will find everything you need at The Laser's Edge at lasercd.com. With their great service, and being on top of all the new selections you hear on the Gagley Archives week to week, The Laser's Edge is also the home to 3 in-house record labels, The Laser's Edge, Sensory Records, and Free Electric Sound. They also specialize in DVDs and books relating to progressive rock music, and so much more. The Laser's Edge Superstore offers a global, broad selection from various other record labels that they know you will love at great prices and quick deliveries. So why do the detective work when they can make it as easy as snapping your fingers? So, if you are listening to the Gagley Archives right now and really loved what you just heard, open your browser and type in lasercd.com. The Laser's Edge, your true progressive rock superstore. Proudly endorsed by the staff of the Gagley Archives and your host, Tom Gagliardi.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
And now, what is number one this week in the weekly Top 20? And here's your host, Tom Gagliardi.
Thank you so much, Grace. That's right. We have the weekly Top 20 for the week of December 2nd, 2022. And we had a couple new releases hit the charts this week. Polish band Collage broke in at number 16 with their new album Over and Out from the Mystic Production record label. And in at number 15 at its debut that we featured at the start of our fourth set Space Out, Los Angeles band Vitskar Sudin and their album The Faceless King from the Ripple Records label. Our biggest leap of the week, the biggest jumper of the week, I should say, which wasn't much actually. It just moved up a couple spots. In Elder, who we featured at the start of our third set, their album Innate Passage, the Berlin, Germany-based band from the Stickman Records label. They moved up from number 9 to number 7. The biggest dropper of the week was 4 positions, and that was Alachatistas, their new release called Expansion from the Riverworm Records label, 6 weeks on our weekly Top 20. Longest on the charts still is San Diego band Birth and their album Born from the Bad Omen Records label, still in the top 5. It's 18 weeks now, moving from number 4 to number 5 this week. That's the longest album on the charts. But our number 1 album, new into the position, knocking Banco del Mutuo Soccorso after some 11 weeks in the top spot down to number 2. It's a new release from the Rune Gramophone Records label, and it first entered the charts the week prior at number 2, and now is at number 1, and for good reason. Her name is Hedvig Mollestad, and for, I believe, the second time now, she has joined up with the Trondheim Jazz Orchestra. And for this new release, which is called Maternity Beat, she blows the roof right off it. It comes to us from the Rune Gramophone Records label. You go to runegramophone.no. And for this new record, she just lights it up. She's one of the great Norwegian guitarist, vocalist, and composer. She's known for a series of album releases and collaborations with musicians like John Eberson, also Charlie Bernhoff, Hilde Marie Kjersson. Well, she's back. And this time, as I said, with the Trondheim Jazz Orchestra. It's called Maternity Beat, and it's her most ambitious work to date. And that's not a proclamation to be taken lightly. Hedvig Mollestad, after all, has been one of Norway's most adventurous and hardest working musicians since the Molde International Jazz Festival, when they named her the Young Jazz Talent of the Year in 2009. Recorded with the 12-piece Trondheim Jazz Orchestra, have previously worked with legends like Chick Corea and Joshua Redman. Maternity Beat is a sprawling double album and a true career milestone. In addition to encompassing the full evolution of her sound to date, it offers deeply personal meditations on the nature of family and pressing social justice issues. While listeners will no doubt encounter Mahavishnu Orchestra-inspired fire music that has made the Hedvig Mollestad trio heavyweights in the 21st century fusion and jazz metal scene, Maternity Beat also expands on the contemplative experimentation showcased on two of Mollestad's recent works, 2020's Echidna and the Arne Nordheim-inspired Tempest Revisited, both of which netted her the Spellemannpris, the Norwegian equivalent of a Grammy. The sheer sonic and emotional scope of Maternity Beat required Hedvig Mollestad to wear multiple hats: guitar explorer, composer, arranger, improviser, collaborator, and, as the striking title implies, motherhood. That latter role serves as the album's thematic focus, and this represents a novel direction for her. Back around 2019, when the Molde International Jazz Festival and the Mid-Norsk Jazz Center originally commissioned the creation of Maternity Beat, Mollestad felt compelled to compose a new and far more personal work that weighed her own privileged experiences with parenting and nurturing against the harsh political realities unfolding before her. Let's not forget, this was a time when graphic images of migrant families drowning at sea were flooding international news. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, which further drove home how the economic systems in which we're all complicit tear apart humanity's far less fortunate. The harsh contrast of humanity and systemic failure fuels the tense shift in mood coursing throughout Maternity Beat. The harsh contrast of humanity and systemic failure fuels the tense shifts and mood coursing throughout this album, Maternity Beat. It's your number one album, and this album completely embodies precisely the kind of daring music that not only makes her a vital leader of the Norwegian jazz scene, but also a key voice in jazz's global vanguard. From the Rune Gramophone Records label, this is Hedvig Mollestad and the Trondheim Jazz Orchestra. Your number one album in the weekly top 20 for the week of December 2nd. This is Maternity Beat.
And now, your new number one album in the weekly top 20 for the week of December 2nd, 2022.
Tonight's program was written, arranged, and produced by Tom Gagliardi and Jack Webster.
Thanks to
Roger Beckwith,
Davin Flatto,
George Pikowski,
Big Bob Lovin,
Jed Hutchinson,
Sean Mickle,
Gail Gervasio,
Michael Cohn,
Connie Lewis,
Chip Ruggieri,
Billy at Glass Onion PR,
Ann Layton,
Wacky Jebster Productions,
Brian Schenkenberger,
Beatrice Low Tierzo,
North 13th Studios,
Asylum Studios,
Grace Low Tierzo,
Lou Cornelius,
Jason Varga, hey, that's me,
and Kevin O'Hara.
Also, a special thanks to Sky and Telescope Magazine,
Jim Brennan,
Rick Henry,
Ken Golden,
Mary Pat Henry,
Michael Joe Byrne,
Brian Schenkenberger,
and Bob Curthy.
This has been a Lost Satellite production.
Got to give a special thanks tonight, as always, to the staff and crew at Asylum Studios, also to North 13th Studios, Lou Cornelius, Wacky Jebster Productions, Connie Lewis. Also, big thanks to Kerry Manier, George Pietkowski, Gary Green, Jan-Eric Leafstrom, Nicholas Barker, Ken Golden, Steve Feigenbaum, Oliver Tejador, Steve Hackett, Christina Booth, Chris Squire, Percy Jones, John Yarger, Jack Webster, our co-producer, Michael Cohn, our assistant, Rick Henry and the crew at House of Prague Radio, Jim Brennan, the CEO of Arl Moon, the Vax Man, Brian Schenkenberger, Spreaker.com, and the lovely and amazing Loren Rojas Ospina. Love you so much, my dear. That'll do it for us for program 1816. Next Saturday, we continue on with part 2 of the top albums that hit the weekly top 20 #1 position in the year 2012. Also, next Saturday, we'll celebrate the 50th anniversary of the classic Italian progressive rock band that just held the top spot for so many weeks prior to Hedvig taking over in Banco del Mucho Soccorso's Darwin. We'll also celebrate the 50th anniversary of Focus and their 3rd album. Also the 40th anniversary of 12th Night and their Fact and Fiction release. We'll also track more new music that is hitting the weekly top 20, including music from Magnus Cartel. It's all this coming Saturday night. Program 1817, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, 3 a.m. UK time. If you missed out on tonight's program, House of Prague will replay us on Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Then Tuesday morning, as always, at the Nets Progressive Rock Garden at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And then one last time, Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific at House of Prague Radio at houseofprague.com. Again, Tuesday at Arl Moon at arlmoon.com. Check out all the happenings of Progressive Rock on our Facebook page, updated daily, featuring birthday salutes and videos and moments in Gagly Archives history at facebook.com/Gagly Archives. What's coming up next? Well, if you're listening to the Nets Progressive Rock Garden, Arl Moon, stay tuned for nonstop progressive rock through the rest of your Sunday in all of its genres, streaming live to your desktop, iPhone, and smartphone. Again, arlmoon.com, A-U-R-A-L moon.com. For friends at House of Prague Radio, don't miss AJ Bradford's The Sunday Groove, coming to you live from Northern Ireland at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, followed by the excellent DJ Mozo's Crosswinds at 11 a.m. Eastern, broadcasting from Pocatello, Idaho. Then at 2 p.m. Eastern, it's the Sunday Tales from the Tiger Moth with Peter Jones. And again, a replay of this program starting at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. So remember, be good and gentle to yourself. And as Annette Peacock says, you're all innocent victims of circumstance and coincidence. So lighten up the cross. It's a long journey ahead. Wishing you the best of goodbyes. We'll see you next Saturday as we have our ceramic Christmas tree up and ready. And go Eagles, let's keep it rolling. Let's not look past these Titans. As always, ride easy into that spectral morning. I'll see you on the short line. Take care, everyone. Honey, vaso de agua, por favor.
Okay. Give me a stop.
Gracias.
This was a Lost Satellite production in cooperation with North 13th Studios, Asylum Studios, and Waukee Jebster Productions.
Sit, Louie, sit. Good kitty.
Isn't that phenomenal?
Oh boy. Ah, shit. Somebody to get done. Somebody to let go. Somebody to jizz on. Ah.
That was good, right? We did good.
Yeah. Pull your pants up.
What are you doing with your fingers?
Tentacles.
I'll play that at the
There's
end of the
10
show.
of them. See?
Please.
Jack Webster, Pemberton, New Jersey, a follower of Prague and now of the Gagley Archives radio program. What did you like the most, bitch?
The most, bitch.
No. What? No, seriously. Of all the bands you've seen so far, what was your favorite?
Is that like Prague talk, bitch? What does that stand?
No. It's something I've been adding this in every little question. So what do you think, bitch?
I think the first day was